You are listening to In Studio from Simply Timeless. I'm Jay Daniels. The music of Ann Hampton Callaway has been a mainstay during our weekly programs from Simply Timeless, and this week Ann joins us to share the story of her journey of musical discovery, along with many of the memorable moments from her career. Later in this podcast, you'll hear her latest work, Carry On. We begin our discussion with a chat about her influences while growing up in Chicago. Here's Ann Hampton Callaway.
I mean, everybody in my family was musical, sort of like the woman I've been paying tribute to around the country before this all started, Linda Ronstadt. I mean, everyone. My father's mother played the piano. My dad sang scat around the house and, had played the most amazing jazz singers and musicians of our time. My mother was an incredibly talented singer, pianist, voice teacher. My sister became one of the major Broadway stars of today, and everyone that I met in my family played an instrument or sang. It was just, I never realized as a child that I had a gift until my third grade teacher heard me sing and told me what a beautiful voice I had. And I said to my mom, I said, Miss Lawrence thinks I have a beautiful voice. And she was like, well, of course you do. You're a Callaway. And, it just, to me, music belongs to everyone. And it should be just like we enjoy food throughout the day, music to me is just as essential. And so I don't think I realized how fortunate I was to have two parents who really loved music and shared it and played it and sang it and danced it and took us to concerts, live concerts. My first concert was with Ray Charles, sitting not too far away from him. I was so thrilled, I just could not control myself. I was 10 years old, and it was just one of the most mind-blowing experiences to receive his energy after hearing his records, on our turntable. I don't even know if it's something that you learn. It's just something we're made of. The moment I heard music, the first time I heard and saw Judy Garland sing Over the Rainbow in The Wizard of Oz when I was a little girl, I was just transported to another world, and who she was, and that music could say feelings that I had. And watching my mom, in some trying times, just throw her head back in the middle of the day and sing big ballads and play her piano with such abandon. It was always a release to each one of us, except my sister, who was very shy. We had to spy on her to hear her sing. And that was not the case with me. I just loved music and did it in every single way I could.
Yeah, I always would sing in church, in a congregational setting. But outside of home, I never sang around other people because my voice had not gotten to the point to where I was comfortable. It was nearly 20 years before I'd sing in public. In like 2007. Yeah. And people said, why have you been hiding this? And I said, too shy to share it with everybody. I was always an instrumentalist at the piano. What was it about some of this music that connected the most with you? You mentioned that music is available to everyone. It's a gift that ought to be shared. When you heard a lot of these musical sounds from various points in your childhood, what were the qualities about those particular songs that really resonated the most with you?
Well, I had a very diverse love of music, and I was presented with many kinds of music, and all of the music of quality that I heard was very important to my development as a human being, not just as a singer and a songwriter and a pianist, etc. But hearing, Judy Garland and hearing Ella Fitzgerald scat singing, the sense of joy, the sense of fun, and sense of wonder. Hearing Sarah Vaughan create worlds with her voice, and a sense of beauty in the world, and a sense of longing. Hearing Billie Holiday on Lady in Satin telling the sad stories of the heart. I saw the sorrows of my parents as a little girl, and it was nice to know that I wasn't the only one witnessing this, that this was a part of life. And music for me, through the years, transformed from my parents' record collection to my own record collection, in which I started to collect records by amazing singer-songwriters at the time, Carole King, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Wonder, James Taylor, and they were teaching me the poetry of self-expression and helping me to, as I was writing poetry and I was writing songs as a very young girl, trying to learn how to tell my story and my truth. They were telling theirs. And I remember being constantly mesmerized by Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky and Debussy. And I remember thinking at one point that they understood me better than any of my friends did. There was a sense of passion and a universal scope of feeling that I didn't hear any of my friends describing or any of my teachers talking about, or even on the evening news. I was getting to hear my soul through someone else's music.
I can relate.
Yeah, and there's a certain kind of spiritual yearning in a lot of the music I love. I'm a very spiritual person, and to me, the sense of wonder and the sense of where do we come from and why are we here, that just comes alive in music. When your heart is opened up by great music, whatever kind of music it is, it really transforms us into more complete human beings.
And I feel that there's a question I often ask people. It's like, well, what would you have done in life if it weren't music? And a lot of people have the same answer. They're like, I don't know if I could think of my life without music. I mean, think about that for a minute.
Yeah, well, it's not my profession. It's really who I am. However, I've asked myself, what would I do to make money? Which is a real question if I wasn't able to use my talents to create a career. And it was either going to be a therapist, because I'm really interested in how people are wounded and how people can heal, and I'm fascinated with the complexities of being human and surviving trauma and tragedy and all the things in our society that don't help us to be who we are, etc. And then I thought, I probably would be good at advertising, but I'd only want to do advertising if I could also advertise beautiful values. If I could be selling a car, but I could also be selling kindness, that kind of sensibility. Those are the two things that came to mind. But I also was very interested in being an actress, and I was an acting major at University of Illinois, and I really love the process of becoming a character. And you have to be a good actress to be a good singer. So that sort of is part of what I do anyway.
And a lot of these qualities that you mentioned, wanting to provide healing, some sort of comfort, a lot of that does come through your music, whether it's through your own works, and there are many, or whether it's a standard, say from a Cole Porter or a Linda Ronstadt or what have you. You mentioned a lot of the names of artists whose records you were collecting as a child. And that music has remained integral in your life to this very day. And what's interesting, I don't want to present you as someone, look at all of these wonderful things and accolades that she has achieved, which you have. And I think those are something to be very proud of. But I want to look at it at the human aspect. Here you were collecting records, growing to love this music of Carole King and Stevie Wonder and James Taylor and others. And yet I was doing my research, and you have had opportunities to work alongside these artists. Just from an aspect of when you were coming up, did you ever have the thought of, one day I'm going to play music with these people that I'm listening to? Did that ever cross your mind, Ann?
I was a real dreamer as a kid. I remember when I was 10 years old, I thought, I want to be the fifth Beatle. It was such an innocent desire. I didn't really think it would happen.
Yeah.
And clearly, they made a big mistake in not allowing a child to join their band. But I couldn't have imagined that Carole King and I would be in a studio, not really knowing each other very well, writing a song the day of a recording. I couldn't imagine that I would be writing a song that Barbra Streisand would record and reach 6 million people with. Standing next to Stevie Wonder in Washington, D.C., singing a finale and hearing that voice with its just unbelievable resonance as if it were coming from the center of the earth. The thrill of that sound right next to me. No, how could I have dreamed that? I have many, many dreams, but my beloved has a wonderful expression. It's called the bucket list of things you didn't know you wanted to have happen. And my life has been filled with so many of those beautiful surprises.
But just as you have been blessed, you've blessed other people. And I didn't realize it, didn't know it at the time, but apparently I grew up with your music too. Because when I was a kid in the 90s, we would watch The Nanny on CBS every single week. And I remember the theme, and I didn't realize, oh, I'm going to be speaking to this lady one of these days. I didn't realize back then that was you, obviously.
Right. Well, they at the end with the credits, it goes by so quickly. And for the first several shows, they misspelled my name, and it really wasn't. It was a big secret that it was me singing and writing that song with my sister's backup vocals. But it's nice to be a part of pop culture, and I'm so glad that that show is still being aired around the world. It's one of the most beloved shows of the recent TV history, and it was really fun. I don't know if you knew about this, but we did a nanny reunion, Zoom, a pandemic performance of the pilot. And everybody was in their homes, and they were rereading the script, and I played the theme song. And so many people watched it. It was so much fun to see the love that people still have for that show.
Yeah,
and Fransresha is so talented and a lovely person.
You can do her accent much better than I can. I'll leave that one to you.
You just work on it a little bit.
Well, my Southern might get in the way. That's my problem, But I'd like to talk more about your compositional efforts. You mentioned you were doing poetry, writing songs as a child. Do you remember when you wrote your first song?
I think I was improvising songs when when we moved from Chicago to Huntington, Long Island, when I was 10 years old. Somewhere in that time period, my father gave me my first rhyming dictionary, the money to buy my first poetry book. I got a record player from Santa Claus. And a guitar. And so those things all together, I started writing songs when I had my little room in the attic of our house in Huntington, Long Island. And I don't know that I wrote any good songs. I still remember some of the songs I wrote when I was 12 and we moved to Huntington, and I started listening to Joni Mitchell and Carole King, and I really was playing a lot of songs on my guitar and doing songwriting then. And that's when I think I really got serious about this is something I want to do. And I told Carole King when I met her, I said, "You're the reason I am a songwriter." And it wasn't until she heard me sing that she thought, "Oh, this is an interesting woman. I want to know her." But it was really important that I was exposed to her spirit, because I just knew that this was something I had to do. But I love writing. My father was a very talented writer as well as a great journalist, and he gave me a passion for literature and poetry and the importance of learning the truth and telling the truth. And so that's just something that's a deep part of who I am. I can't imagine not doing it.
Who are some of your favorite writers as far as, say, books are concerned? You mentioned a great love of literature.
Well, through the years, there are so many authors that I read. A lot of them are poets, a lot of them are philosophers, spiritual people. I remember reading Emily Dickinson. She was my first favorite poet, and then Robert Frost. And in fact, Robert Frost had a poem he wrote when he was about 19 years old that I carried in my jeans pocket in high school just to keep me going. And then I ended up setting that poem to music. It's called Revelation. I was awestruck by reading the autobiography of Paramahansa Yogananda. I loved reading biographies of great people and how did they live and how did they make their choices. And I could just remember as a kid going to the Chicago Public Library and getting every biography of every person and wanting to become whatever they were at that juncture. When I read it, I thought, oh, I want to be an inventor. Oh, I want to be president. Oh, I want to be that. The poetry of Rilke and Neruda and those poets, to me, really tell the truth spiritually about what life is. And there's just so many people I could talk about, but
Sure.
That's a little handful of people who touch my heart.
I know that the inspiration for each song is obviously different. It comes from a different place, a different point in your life. But thinking in musical terms and also trying to derive lyrics, do you have a process or do you have certain ingredients that you utilize for, crafting a song?
Well, it's an interesting question because songs that I've written through the years have happened in many different ways. I've kept a journal a lot of my life. Now I don't keep a journal the same way I used to. This year I've been writing a poem every day. But I remember a life-changing experience when I was about 12 or 13 years old. Bob Dylan wrote a book called Tarantula, and it was a free association novel he wrote in a few weeks. And I was blown away. How could somebody write a novel, the first thing that comes to mind, and just keep doing it? So I started doing improv poetry and improv journaling. And this process of just trusting my instincts and trusting my subconscious and letting it flow and not judging it and not editing it till later was a huge, huge gold mine of learning how to be creative. And so I started doing this work as a child, and to this day, that's how I write. There's something called the ring of truth. When I hear somebody say something, I'm watching a movie, I'm reading the news, there's a word or a phrase, and I think, oh my God, boom, I have to do something with that. That I need to say something about this. This is a ring of truth, and I need to let it ring out completely. And something happens in what we're going through as a culture, or somebody dies and I don't know what to do. I just have to write a song. A friend of mine, I couldn't go to his funeral, and I just sat at the piano and I put my tape recorder on and I sang to him, after he passed away, and it turned out to be one of my most beautiful songs. And so sometimes people say, oh, right now in the coronavirus pandemic, I've been commissioned by many people. I've offered to write people's songs, and I've been commissioned by people to tell their story. And I recently wrote a song for this lovely woman in the UK who had a big loss in her life. And I asked her all these questions, and I wrote a song for her about that. And it's turned out to be something really special. So sometimes it's for a famous person who's looking for something. Sometimes it's something that I can't hold in my heart anymore. When I write words, the music usually comes right away. It's almost like the sound and cadence of the words suggest notes. And so I immediately start writing the notes above the words, A, B flat, C. And I'll write songs in airplanes, and I just hear the music in my mind. And then the first moment I can get to a piano, I make sure I'm writing it down right. If I write music, it can take me months and even years to know what it's about. And that's the hardest way for me to write. Is if I'm composing music, I don't know what it's about. I know how it makes me feel, but it's hard to find the words. And lately I've been having fun writing with other people, and it's nice to collaborate with wonderful people I admire, like Amanda McBroom and Michelle Browerman and my friend Ken Ashby and others. So it's just an adventure.
I want to highlight your latest single in just a moment. It's called Carry On. And there are certain songs that you have composed that are in response to historic moments in this country. There were two that you crafted for 9/11. Can you tell me more about those songs in response to September 11th?
Sure. Well, of course, I thought the day of 9/11 was one of the most frightening and life-altering experiences in my lifetime. And I remember I immediately wrote a big kind of poem about it and sent it out like as soon as I could. But the first flight that went out just right after 9/11, I was driving to the airport to go to meet a friend at the other side of the country, and I started hearing, "I believe in America," and I pulled my car over as I was going to drive to the airport, and I thought, I need to write this. This is something that needs me to express it, and so I wrote a very patriotic anthem to express the best of what this country is and what it can be and how we can live up to the ideals to keep strong during this mind-boggling challenge. And then, I'm not sure which came first. Actually, the first thing I wrote, I go to my spiritual teacher is a woman named Guru Mai Chidvalasananda, and she's a guru from Ganeshpuri, India. And she's an extraordinary, inspiring person. And she invited people to a special sort of healing gathering and read this 5,000-year-old prayer from the Rig Veda. And it's called Let Us Be United. It's just a very simple, beautiful prayer. And I remember thinking, that is so beautiful. I want to set it to music. The next day, the singer Meg Christian, who was up there too, handed me the poem, the prayer, and said, here. And I looked at her and thought, how did you know that I wanted to have these words? And so that night, I sat in my little tiny single bed cot at the ashram, and I looked at the words, and it was if the music was waiting 5,000 years to come out, and the music came immediately. The next day I sang it. A few days after that, we did a worldwide music video with children from all over the world that sang, and it was an amazing experience. So those two songs, the song I Believe in America, I got to sing on Larry King Live. And after I sang it, and they did these beautiful images with it, the producer said, oh, thank you so much, Anna. By the way, we understand that Osama bin Laden sometimes watches our show. So that was an interesting experience to think that, you know.
It's like, should I feel gratified by that? There was also a piece that you wrote to honor the victims of Hurricane Katrina from 2005. A nice take on one of the beloved hymns, When the Saints Go Marching In. Yours, Let the Saints Go Marching In. What was the inspiration behind that?
I was really sad about the racial inequities of how that was handled. I thought it was a very challenging time. I was very upset with how little care was really being given to the people affected by Hurricane Katrina, and so I wanted to inspire people and to comfort them and to know that people cared about them and that what was happening was important and wrong, and you know, to lift people up. And so that was something that I needed to express. And it's sometimes songs make a bigger impact than others, but I'm glad that I was able to get that out.
During a period such as the one we're going through, where there is so much upheaval, there is so much uncertainty, do you personally find it difficult to continue performing and to continue writing, even under these circumstances?
No, I don't find it difficult. I find it essential. I think it's so important. We need music more than ever. We're being thwarted at every angle to offer it. You know, we can't sing it live. We can't travel to reach people. We have to figure out suddenly, we have to turn our homes into TV studios and learn complicated technology and buy top complicated technology when we really can't afford it. And we have to learn how to love and send out our music when we miss the live experience of seeing the people and the response and the energy. But it's so, if there was ever a time to be an artist, this is it. You know, we don't know when we will get to do what we do in the way we want to do it, but music is the great healer. It's the great uniter. It's the great awakener. And so I feel honored to do what I do, and I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility and inspiration in getting to express every single day of what we're going through, to try to lift people up. This morning I wrote a prayer, sort of a wish for other people, like what I wish for you. And I'm going to set that to music. But I try to give people comfort, because people are afraid. I know I'm afraid. And people are sad, and they're losing people, and we're all wondering how long we will have to live. You know, I just think, well, if I only have a year to live, what if I get sick and I'm not here anymore? What do I want to leave the world with? I want to leave the world with the best of who I am, and I don't want to hold back, and I don't want to miss one moment of offering something special if I have something to say or share.
Who were you thinking of when you penned the piece?
I was thinking of the many people I love. I know a lot of people are really hurting now, and so I just think, well, what can I do to bring some sweetness to their lives? And I think that there's a part of me, the little Ann, the little girl who's afraid. You know, I want to comfort myself as much as everyone else, because growing up with a father who was a journalist, it was really hard hearing the horrible things that people did to each other, the wars, the civil rights movement and everything that was going on then, and the murders and the thoughtless, cruel, terrible things that people can do. And I just remember not being able to sleep at all, or not feeling safe, not feeling like the grown-ups were doing their job. And so I've spent a lot of my life trying to, get the strength to not freak out about everything, and to feel that there's hope, and that I can trust in something, and I can be strong against any odds. So when I write these things for others, I know I'm also trying to comfort my own heart.
So why is the message of having hope, carrying on and moving forward, why is that so important? And not just now in this season. I think this is one of those songs that it's an evergreen. It's one that has a message that needs to be heard at any time in life. But why do you believe it is important to share this message now?
I think it's critically important to summon the strength that we all have. If you look back at your own life and you think about the most difficult times that you ever faced, and you can say to yourself, wow, I got through that. Mm-hmm. And you can think about the people who helped you get through it, and maybe the values that helped you get through it, and the qualities that you nurtured in yourself and the people who helped you to nurture, like discipline and kindness and compassion and love. All those moments in your life can remind you that no matter how hard and unthinkable a time you are living in is, you do have the strength and you can make it. But the thing that I try to remind people in Carry On is, it's we. It's not just you, it's we. We have the strength to carry on. To me, any way that we can help people feel like a family, and remind how we're connected, and remind how much we share the same feelings and needs and longings, then that empowers us. And that's part of what I wanted to achieve in the song, was a sense of collective strength and the collective hope, dreaming ahead and knowing, reminding ourselves that there's no cause not to believe in what is possible, because we've done it before and we'll do it again, and it's the story of mankind.
I'm curious, when you hear the song, when you listen to your own work like this, how does this song encourage you during what you're having to go through? Because God knows you've had to make your own changes in life too.
I'm really happy to have it in the world. It makes me feel more hopeful. And to know that other people are being comforted by it and inspired by it. And one of the most important ideas in this song is the thought that when our children have grown up, let them remember how strong we were today. Let them remember it's not just about us in this time, it's also about the future. And I like thinking about that. It gives me a heightened sense of purpose. Because we sometimes live in our own little cocoons, and everything's about what we think and what we feel. Like you were there in Virginia, not meeting other types of people.
That's right.
And that's, I'm a person who's been very lucky through my music to travel all over the world, India and Europe and Africa, and many places that show me so many different ways of being. And I feel the more that we can let our curiosity and our just genuine, friendly selves share in these feelings and these longings and this dream that we have of surviving the coronavirus pandemic, the stronger and happier our lives will be. This is the first time in the history of our world that so many countries all around the world are dealing with the very same challenges. And so to me, it's a kind of a beautiful thing that we're learning from each other, or hopefully we're learning from each other. And if we just sort of have a collective agreement that let's get through this together, not just in our country, not just in our town, not just in our home, but all across the world, if we can really just be a family of man and bless this moment with each of our gifts, then we're going to be doing even better when this is done.
We have the strength to carry on. We have the grace of God with us always. There is no darkness untouched by that great light. Through the night we will carry on. Carry on. We will carry on as we climb up the mountain before us. Even when hopes are few, we know we'll get through with love to share. We will carry on. We may not know what lies ahead, but with the eyes of faith, we'll find shelter. Just like the river who always finds her way, every day we will carry on. Carry on. We will carry on as we climb up the mountain before us. Even when hopes are few, we know we'll get through with love to share. We will carry on. And when our children have grown up and they must face the hard times before them, let them remember how strong we were today, so they can say we will carry on. Carry on. We will carry on as we climb up the mountain before us. Even when hopes are few, we know we'll get through with love to share. We will carry on. Even when hopes are few, we know we'll get through with love to share. We will carry on with love to share. We will carry
You are blessed in the fact that you have someone very special that you have spent many years with. You continue to spend life with, as you called her, your beloved Carrie. How has this time brought the two of you closer together?
Well, it's definitely brought us closer together. We just celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary. We've been together for almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years, yes. I think because when you have this intimacy of not seeing other people, and it could, for some marriages, I'm sure it's really hard, and some people are probably going to be divorced by the end of this all.
Well, yes, divorce
people are
rates are
they're used to their husband being away, and you're always gone, and I have my free time, and I can do what I want, and
So this is how you really are.
but we actually are very well prepared for this because we travel all over the world together. We're in tiny hotel rooms. We're sharing, we're on airplanes, and we just are so well in sync with each other, and we're both being very creative during this time. She's been painting and collaging and making things for people, and bringing a lot of happiness to people, and I've been doing my music and writing, and she's an amazing cook, and so we've been able to just be there for each other in a very loving and supportive way, and we give each other space. We don't, we're close, but we're also we sort of share our solitudes, and that's an important part of it all. But to me, love is why we're here, and so I feel very blessed to have someone I love and I can be with, and I try to be a good friend too. I miss my sister very much, who lives in New York. I don't know when I'm going to see her. Her husband was just in a car crash. We've been praying for him, and he's getting better. But it's really hard to be away from the other people that I love, but Kari's just been the most amazing person through this all.
Both of you have had to make sacrifices, I know. You've mentioned the many adjustments you've had to make. I mean, you can't go on the road to do performances. And I know that I was looking at your website, and I just loved one idea that you had. Private in-house concerts, for birthdays, anniversaries. I think that's a wonderful idea.
It's been amazing, actually. I did a 1-hour concert for this family in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
I think it was one of my favorite things I've ever done. I could see them. They could see me. They were like right here. It was so intimate, and I saw the tear go down the father's face when I was singing My Funny Valentine, and then he reached for his wife's hand, and it was just so beautiful, and I'm loving doing it. It's a lot of fun. Now, especially now that I have better Wi-Fi.
Yeah, talk about upgrading technology. Yeah. Thinking about all of the things that we've discussed today, and there are so many other questions I could ask, but that'll be another time. I have one last thought, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Why music?
Music is the cry of the heart. It is the first song of every day. It is the expression of the inexpressible. It is a way of loving that can be felt from any distance. It is the humanizing, glorious form of what it is to be alive. And it is, to me, it is the Spirit singing through us and to each other. And it's a way to honor the miracles of this life that we live.
Ann Hampton Callaway, our guest for this week's In Studio from Simply Timeless. Visit her website, annhamptoncallaway.com. There you'll find the audio and video for her latest single, Carry On. Special thanks to Ann for taking the time to join us, and a word of thanks to you also for allowing us to be a part of your day. Until we meet again, I'm Jay Daniels. This is In Studio.